Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I just read The Twice That King Ruin by Nate Crowley, and it is an amazing novel. The book tells the story of Olthix, a bitter and resentful Necron noble who was once the heir to the throne of the Ithacast dynasty. Now, however, he has been stripped of all his nobility, and he has been exiled to a shitty planet called Seth. As the number of enemies grow every day, while his already small army rapidly dwindles in numbers, Olthix is forced to confront his past and travel to his throne world in a desperate Hail Mary to save the Ithacast dynasty. Olthix himself is quite an amazing character, or characters I should say, as Olthix has had someone implement multiple subminds into his head. Basically, this is a fancy way of saying that he now has voices in his head. What makes these subminds so cool, however, is that they all have a unique personality that's associated with their function. Xenology, for an example, is a massive nerd, fascinated by everything the other subminds consider boring, filthy, or heretical. Another example is Doctrinal, which is the expert on dynastic traditions and etiquette. Naturally, he's a massive stuck-up that gets offended at the slightest deviation from protocol. There's a couple more, and watching all of them interact with each other is absolutely hilarious. Furthermore, Olthix has the power of supermemory. This allows him to relive a moment from the past as if he was there once. Unfortunately, he completely loses that memory after using it. This power plays an important role in one of the central themes in the book, which is the loss of history, memories, and personality. Or for short, losing who you are. This novel does a great job at showing the reader the degradation of the Necrons, both physically, as Necron warriors are constantly lost and there are no longer means to make more, as well as mentally, with the deep sleep corrupting many of the higher ranking Necrons, and the destroyer and flayer viruses raging through Necron society. This altogether makes for quite a tragic story about a race that has so far mostly been portrayed as petty and overpowered. Not in this book, however, as the portrayal of Necrons here is far more human than in a novel such as The Infinite and the Divine. What I mean by that is that the Necrons in this book are far more emotional than usual. They can be consumed by grief, they can love someone, or they can be joyful. This does make the Necrons far more compelling and relatable, but I'm not sure whether I'm completely happy with this decision, as it also makes them much less alien. Regardless, this deeper range of emotions does make for a better novel, even if it maybe doesn't make for a better Necron novel. Another thing that this novel does very well is fleshing out the lore of the Necrons and the Flayer curse a bit more. We get a lot of scenes about the history of the Necron tier, which do a good job of portraying an extremely sick and desperate race, where people daily check themselves all over to see if they've gained another tumor. We also get a lot of scenes about the Flayers, which are perfectly gruesome and horrific. Flayers are on one hand portrayed as extremely degenerate, but on the other hand they are by far the most terrifying creatures in the Necron arsenal. It also takes a look at the Destroyer cult, but for a deep dive in that, I'd instead recommend reading The Infinite and the Divine. Furthermore, it also takes a deep dive in Necron communication, which is wonderfully weird. Necrons, as you know, have faces made of solid metal, which makes more complex communication difficult. A problem which you might recognize if you've ever communicated via texting. So, just like us, the Necrons use a complex set of emojis to better convey what they mean. This may sound a bit weird, but it works really well in the novel. Finally, I'd also like to mention the combat, as it continues the trend of making Necron combat utterly over the top. A trend which I absolutely love. Making a joke about the combat scenes being directed by Michael Bay feels like an understatement for this book. After all, there's only one race capable of the absolute bullshit that the Necrons can pull off, and this book utilizes this to create some of the coolest combat scenes ever. All in all, this book gets 5 out of 5 Lich Guards. Ruin is an amazing exploration of themes regarding memories and the mind, while also delivering an amazing heartbreaking story about the Necrons. Furthermore, it features some amazing characters, especially the subminds, and the ridiculous combat and spots of humor prevent this book from becoming too heavy. I recommend this book for all Necron fans, especially as it does such a great job at fleshing out their lore. I'd also like to mention that the sequel is already on the way, so I'll be looking forward to that definitely. Anyway, that was all I got for you today.
If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and click ringing the bell to appease the great horned rat. For more lore content, please check my main channel and leave any book recommendations in the comments down below. I gotta get back to reading the next book.